Let me begin, as I usually do, by providing an updated report on where we are in fiscal year 2014. So here are the numbers. I think I've done this before in terms of taking you through what they represent. The $444 million represents the quarterly update from last November, what we projected to be the surplus at that time, at the completion of the fiscal year. You can see that we are enjoying the benefits of some increased taxation revenue, both personal income tax and corporate income tax, adjustment downward from natural resources, some other fees and revenues. ICBC is enjoying a good year, particularly on the investment side. When you add in all of the changes that are anticipated, you will see that we are now forecasting at the end of the fiscal year, at the end of March, a surplus for 2014-15 of $879 million. I should also, though, point out that there remains a $100 million forecast allowance that has not been drawn down. If that is not drawn down, then, as you'll see in a subsequent slide, the amount is $100 million more, $979 million. Brian? You've heard me talk about this in the past. I think it is worth emphasizing again that exclusive club as it relates to balanced budgets in this country among the provinces. British Columbia we're going to talk about today. I wasn't actually sure what color we should, we'll call that Rider Green, shall we, for Saskatchewan. I think they're still ascertaining whether or not they are going to be able to stay above the line. But we are, by any measure, unique in terms of our fiscal situation and the strength of our fiscal situation here in British Columbia. Budgets are about forecasts. They are predictors for what is to come, and they are therefore very much influenced by the information we get from the Forecast Council. You see the numbers that we have starting for 2014, which one would think is somewhat easier to predict now that it's passed. 2015 at 2.6, 2.8, and then 2.5. The term I have tended to use in describing growth in British Columbia has been steady, modest growth. I suppose, though, if we are able in one of these years, 2016 for example, to exceed what the Forecast Council predicts and slip beyond 3% or into the 3% range, I'll opt for a different adjective. But for the moment, I think it is still appropriate to describe what is taking place as steady, modest. It is certainly, these numbers places us at or in the lead in Canada. You'll see for budgeting purposes, the Ministry of Finance, we use a reduced number. That has served us well in terms of some of the changes that can take place over the year. That's the first layer of caution and prudence that we attach to the budgeting process that we undertake. I'll take you through some of the indicators that characterize our economy, starting with employment. You will see that from the trough that we hit in March of 2009, it has been a steady climb. In 2013, growth was at 0.1, very, very modest. For 2014, I think we'll come in the range of 0.6%, predicting forward growth of 1% unemployment rates that continue to track well below the national average, and people are again returning to British Columbia. There is a net inflow domestically within Canada, and of course coupled with international immigration that has remained robust in British Columbia. Retail sales, you've heard me allude to this in the past. over the past year have been something of a pleasant surprise. We were predicting through 2014 growth in retail sales in the range of 3.5% is my recollection. We have ended up in the 5.5% to 6% range. Two things about that. We are cautious about whether or not that is going to be sustainable heading into through 2015, although I'm told December and January have been, anecdotally at least, good. So the forecast going forward, we're budgeting on the basis of a 3.3% forecast, and you'll get an update on that in the first quarter report. Bottom line, retail sales have been growing at a very healthy rate in British Columbia, and the only qualifier I would add is something you've heard me and others talk about, and that is ensuring that consumer debt levels are maintained at a manageable way. How to explain this? I've heard numerous explanations, some relating to the additional disposable income that accrues to people from reduced energy prices, although that is a fairly recent phenomenon, diminished interest rates. Also, I provide an opportunity, but again, I think we need to be cautious about, and people need to be cautious about not biting off more than they can chew debt-wise. Housing is tracking along at a sustainable, predictable, and historically average level. So that is good for the construction sector, good for the forest sector, coupled with improvements in the housing market that we see developing south of the border, and the access we have achieved to markets in Asia, particularly China. Housing starts are again percolating along at a healthy and positive rate. Next, on the export side, you'll see ongoing growth. Been a good year for manufacturers in BC in terms of their exports, growth at the 6.3% range. That is, I think, in large measure a tribute to two things. Looking forward, the exchange rate at which the dollar is presently trading is anticipated to create and enhance those opportunities. I will say this as well. We see through the establishment of the RMB trading hub for Canada other positive opportunities for companies in British Columbia, and intend to take advantage as one of the major advocates for that step. And we're pleased that both the Government of Canada and the central banks in Canada and China have established this trade hub for the Americas. We see great potential for that here in British Columbia, particularly for sectors like forestry. How to explain continued and relatively steady improvement on the export side? One word you've heard a lot in the last number of months. Actually, I hope you've heard a lot from me in the last number of years. Diversification. I won't dwell on this except to tell you that for many other jurisdictions, the chart is not quite as varied in terms of the colors represented. We have a very domestically diversified range of economic activity. That helps us a lot because at any given time, any one of those sectors can be facing challenges. What also helps us is this, which you have heard me talk about in the past. I wanted to update you on the numbers and again point out that the fact that we are so far less dependent on a single market, the United States, for example, as other trading jurisdictions within Canada, has assisted us greatly. Now, there has been some adjustments in those numbers. In fact, the US in the last year has begun to inch back up. China has inched down ever so slightly. I'm told that as the economy in the U.S. Picks up a little bit of steam, we hope that will continue. China is anticipated to grow at the lowest rate since the recession. They will stagger along, I'm told, at approximately 7% growth rates. Healthy by any other international standard, slightly below what they have been used to. But as you see, we have positioned ourselves well to take advantage of the ebb and flow that can occur internationally in terms of economies overseas and to our south. So what does this translate into the bottom line? The bottom line, which is what I tend to call this, you will see the update for 2014-15, which I began the presentation with. The anticipated or forecast surpluses for the fiscal year we are in, and the 2 additional years covered by the fiscal plan that I'm tabling today, surpluses of $284, $376, and $399 million. Some of you, I'm sure, will have already noted that those numbers include some additional levels of prudence in terms of contingencies and forecast allowances. They are certainly there, as they have been in the past, and we think that has served the interests of the province very well, given the vagaries that can characterize international economic behavior through the course of a year. The tale of the 2 lines is what I like to call this. Black line, stay above red line. And that's what generates the surpluses. That's what constitutes a balanced budget. You will see that obviously the secret to that is to have your revenues grow at a greater rate than your expenses. That has been the case. It will continue to be the case as we move through the years covered by the fiscal plan. But at the end of the day, people ask, and they ask elsewhere in the country, what's the secret to the balanced budget? It is ultimately the tale of the 2 lines and making sure the right one is on top. You have all seen this before, and a comparator, the report cards that are issued and how British Columbia places vis-a-vis other international jurisdictions, sovereign jurisdictions, and in a moment I'll show you Canada. I'm told that France, Italy, and surprise, surprise, Greece have all been assigned downgrades in the last month or 2. We take great pride in our placement in the AAA category, and as I've also said in the past, this translates into genuine benefits for British Columbians. The amount of money we save in debt servicing costs can be measured in the millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, ultimately monies that today we have available for expenditure on healthcare, education, public safety, and other programs that would otherwise be going to financial institutions. Our comparator nationally, of course, I think most of you are familiar with, and again, it is something we have labored hard and that British Columbians deserve to be proud of and to take advantage of the advantages that go with membership in this second very exclusive club. Let me talk a little bit about some of the measures that go into establishing membership in that AAA club, debt obviously being a part of it. Today you will see where we are in terms of our debt to GDP ratio. We have already begun to bring that number down. At one time, under one of the previous fiscal plans, we were anticipating topping out at 18.5%. We managed through discipline and I should also mention a Stats Can adjustment that occurred. The highest amount we got to was 17.9%. We have begun to come down, and through the term of the fiscal plan, we are forecasting that, as you'll see in a moment, our debt to GDP ratio will be at 16.6%. The purpose of this is to highlight the comparator. We are, compared to Ontario, they have a rate that's twice as high, 3 times as high in Quebec, and you see where we stand in relation to the national government. 2 additional measures here. Well, first of all, you see with respect on the left, the debt to GDP measurement there, and where we intend to get to. And I should say this, in forecasting 16.6 and 17-18, I at least have to point out that in setting these targets in the past, we have, I think, if we look back over the last 3 years at least, managed to exceed our targets. These, however, are targets, and what we will present to those who assess our credentials as managers of the books and managers of the provincial debt. Another measurement that has increasingly received some attention in some quarters is debt to revenue, and we have also ensured that we are tracking in the right direction with respect to that metric that some commentators have begun to examine in more detail. And again, we see our lines moving in the right direction on that front as well. Now, I want to show you one other thing, and I'll talk in a moment about overall taxpayer supported debt. But when we go to this next one, I think it is relevant information when it comes to debt management, and 2, candidly, the government's kind of proud of this. You see, if you go back to 03, 04, within that category of taxpayer-supported debt, there is this segment of it, direct operating debt. And I'm not trying to distinguish one for the other. It's all taxpayer-supported debt. But one relates to the debt we incur to build, and the other refers this to debt that has been incurred to provide services to British Columbians. I call this the grocery debt. This is money that has been borrowed in the past to provide services. You'll see between 03 and 09, the government enjoyed great success paying down that grocery debt to $5.7 billion. Then through the period of time when we were incurring deficits, we were borrowing. We were borrowing to pay for the groceries. And that number bounced back up to $10.2 billion. But by returning to balanced budgets, by posting the surpluses that you see, that you've seen over the last couple of years and into the future, by the end of the fiscal plan period covered today, that direct operating debt will be at its lowest level since 1990. And we intend to take it lower beyond that. But that is, when I talk about the need to pay back the money that we borrowed to pay the groceries, that's what I'm talking about. And it is a first step. It is a first step towards achieving something else, which is the payment down, ultimate payment down of the debt itself. We'll take, and so there, on that front, you'll see, and this has largely been forgotten, but during that period 04, 05, if you look at what's here, the debt was paid down in real terms. Taxpayer-supported debt actually went down during that period of time, and then it went up during the years we were running deficits. And what I would say to you is, during that period 09 to 13, a period of time when we were borrowing both to build and also to pay for the groceries, to pay for services. Now that we've returned to balanced budgets, we're not borrowing for the groceries anymore, and we are steadily diminishing that operating debt, and the only borrowing we do relates to infrastructure, highways, schools, hospitals. Another way to, and by the way, the objective, which you see we are coming perilously close to, is to have that red line cross the flat line once again. And that is the objective. Another way to show that on this next slide, which I think most of you have, which shows the diminished percentage that our direct operating debt represents in proportion to infrastructure debt. It's all debt. It's all debt for which the taxpayers are responsible, and it all needs to be dealt with. But we think we're on track to once again accomplish the objectives that we've set for ourselves and the province. I mentioned the borrowing as it relates to infrastructure. We are maintaining a healthy infrastructure program. These are 3-year totals, running totals, as they have related to each fiscal plan. In this budget, a 10.7 3-year taxpayer-supported infrastructure program. And on the next slide, you'll see how that is apportioned as between the various departments of government, the big clients, if you will, being education, advanced ed, health, and transportation. And it is apportioned over the 3 years in the manner you see laid out there. Now, departmentally, let me take you through quickly a few of the areas of government where you might have some interest in terms of the budgets themselves departmentally. You'll see for education, the amount increases by $576 million over that 3-year period. I will tell you this in terms of examining the documents. That amount is allocated to educational services, classroom services, and including the Learning Improvement Fund. The funds are designed to take into account the labor agreements that we have negotiated in the last number of months, and to provide the means for addressing that. I should say this as well, though. On the portion of the budget that you see referred to as administrative costs, we are continuing to challenge boards of education across British Columbia to find administrative savings in the neighborhood of 29 and 25 million dollars. So the challenge to find more effective means of delivering administrative services within the education sector remains, but there are certainly increases on the educational services side to ensure that we are looking after our greatest asset and providing the best possible education and training to young people. Let's go over to the social service, social development ministry. You've speculated and are now likely in a position to know that the government has decided to fully exempt child support payments from income and disability assistance calculations. There may be questions about this later. I can tell you that in examining the research and considering the benefits that would accrue, examining the data around what average support payments represent as between custodial and non-custodial parents, research that we looked at in the UK, and the impact this would have on the collection of maintenance from non-custodial parents, all helped guide the government to this decision, the consultation, and candidly the concerns being expressed by folks either receiving these payments or advocates for them clearly was also influential. the notion, if someone was thinking about a question relating to the possibility of a cap, that conversation came up as well. There were some significant practical difficulties associated with administering a cap in these circumstances that at the end of the day mitigated against including any kind of a cap. So the maintenance payments for people receiving income and disability assistance will be fully exempt. Increased budgets for Community Living BC and income assistance caseloads, again, modest increases designed to assist with some of the pressures that folks in that area are facing, and we believe will assist some of the people who are most vulnerable. And then I want to show you, take you to this next slide, which I actually, when I asked for the information and to have it compiled, I thought was relatively informative. So I'll admittedly take one example that is perhaps the most dramatic. But what I wanted to highlight here is, you know, it's tough these days. And if you're a family with 2 kids and you're only making $30,000, I don't want to pretend it's easy, because it's not. But when you look at the benefits that now flow from both the provincial and federal government, that family receives an additional $11,482, which doesn't suddenly turn a tough existence into an easy one, but it is significant assistance. And you can see how that tracks through. All but one of those assistance programs are not taxable, so the value to the recipient is somewhat greater than it would be if it were work-related income. And in addition to this, starting this summer, when a child reaches 6 years of age, the payments of the $1,200 per child for the Registered Education Savings Plan will begin to flow as well. That is another very tangible benefit that will accrue to the advantage of families, and ultimately the young person whose training and education needs will be served a decade later, and you've heard me talk about that as well. Okay. When I was going through this, I suddenly had this, got to the health portion of the bike, I had this image of Fenway Park and the green monster. This is the monster. The growth is steady, relentless, but in British Columbia, accruing at a rate much lower than most other jurisdictions. So you can see $3 billion more over the course of the next 3 years. A growth rate of below 3%, 2.9%. Again, folks thought that would not be sustainable. We are demonstrating that it can be, but it takes imagination, innovation, and a willingness to look at different ways of delivering services. I should say, in addition to the increases to the health authorities, the government is also, and for those of you that later either watch or hear about the budget address, you will hear that the government is partnering with the Canadian Cancer Society and providing $12.5 million to help with the establishment of a cancer prevention center in Vancouver. Our hope is that other governments will partner, and the Cancer Society, of course, has been very active in terms of its fundraising efforts. So we will provide that contribution, and the government intends to allocate approximately $10 million going forward to further expansion of hospice services in British Columbia, and in pursuit of our objective of doubling the number of hospice beds, or increasing by 50%, I should say, the number of hospice beds in British Columbia. That's health. Let's go over to, on the tax side of the equation, you'll see that we continue to wrestle with Alberta for bragging rights around the lowest income tax rates for people earning less than $122,000. One wonders if that is likely to change when the Alberta budget is introduced, given the challenges that they are facing. We shall see. For the moment, however, again, we probably take this for granted, and I don't know many British Columbians that come to me and say, my goodness, I just feel like my taxes are so low comparatively. But when you look at that comparison between BC and Quebec, that is a striking difference. And that accrues to people throughout the, as I say, right up to 122. And in a moment, you'll see, learn of a few other measures, or probably already have from the material you've received, some benefits that accrue to some of the lower income earning British Columbians. Let's go there now, Brian. So, 15 years ago, if you were earning $18,000, which of course isn't a lot, you were paying hundreds of dollars, I think between $600 or $700 in provincial income tax. Now, to many in this room, that might not seem like a lot. If you're earning $18,000, it's a lot. Today, those people don't pay any provincial income tax. And with the adjustment we're making today, that amount will go to $19,000 before people are paying any provincial income tax at all. We're also trying, in recognizing some of the health outcomes that position British Columbia so well, trying to promote the notion of preventative health care in schools and with families. There is, of course, an existing tax credit for the registration of children in activities, and today we're going to expand that and provide a admittedly modest credit to offset the cost of purchasing some of the equipment. I don't want to overstate this. It's not, you're not going to deck out your kid in $1,000 worth of new ski gear or hockey gear on the basis of this, but it's a little more assistance to promote participation in recreational activities. And for teachers who donate their time, and many do, those that contribute 10 hours or more will have access to a $500 non-refundable coaching tax credit, which will recognize the efforts that they make in providing the benefits of sport and recreation, cultural activities to their students. Some other tax measures, some renewals here relating to the training tax credit, new mine allowance, the mining flow-through, interactive digital media. Positive story in all of these areas. Digital media, for example, very much a growth industry, and whilst we would have liked to have become even more competitive on that front, we are bound to take measured steps. We made a commitment a couple of years ago that we would, the digital animation, visual effects, the DAVE tax credit would be expanded to include post-production activities, and with this budget, that extension and expansion of the tax credit will occur. And you see the reference to the small business venture capital tax credit there as well. And then finally, in a range of matters that the government attaches importance and priority to, for really decades now, the SPCA has been at the front line of protecting animals from neglect and abuse, and do so on the strength of contributions they receive from hundreds of thousands of British Columbians. They don't get anything from government, but their infrastructure in many communities, the shelters that they look after and fund on the strength of volunteer participation, are deteriorating and in need of repair or replacement. The government is allocating $5 million to partner with the SPCA to begin that process, and knows that British Columbians will be active partners as they have been in the work of the SPCA. Aerospace represents a continuing success story, albeit one that, pardon the pun, flies under the radar screen. Approaching 10,000 families who derive a very healthy living from involvement in our aerospace sector for a whole variety of reasons. It extends across British Columbia. An aircraft manufacturer right here in southern Vancouver Island that is providing aircraft to the world. And we think it's a sound investment. So the second installment of that investment will be made. And in a similar vein, an industry, an activity that once enjoyed a much stronger presence in British Columbia than it once did. We're investing $3 million to help reestablish a maritime center of excellence. And this is designed in partnership with the companies that operate shipping to reestablish something that existed for a number of years and then disappeared in the mid-1990s. At that time, fully 20 shipping companies called Vancouver their home. That has dropped off dramatically. And with developments elsewhere in the world, we think the time is right to coordinate our efforts to bring those companies back and begin to enjoy the benefits that flow from having shipping companies headquartered right here in Canada's Asia-Pacific gateway. You have heard me in the past in budget addresses speak to the challenges facing the cement industry. In the past, we, on the basis of a study that was referred to and in a previous budget, provided assistance to the commercial greenhouse and nursery sector. The challenge facing the cement industry is somewhat different. Greenhouses, of course, being obliged to produce CO2 to accommodate their activities. The cement industry is in the process of incorporating cleaner technologies, cleaner fuels, biocoal. There is a competitiveness issue. In the budget, we are announcing today a 5-year limited duration transitional program to incent the movement to those cleaner fuels and those reduced emissions. Buy Local BC, our agri-food sector, of course, has the greatest variety of products in the world, and we are allocating $2 million to ensure that people are aware of what we produce in British Columbia, and that coupled with a further expansion in funding for the school fruit and vegetable program to make sure that not only milk products are included, but that First Nations band schools are serviced as part of the network of supply that now goes out to hundreds of thousands of students. We think that's a sound investment. And lastly, the government undertook a few years ago to address what's referred to as the last mile in terms of internet connectivity, signed contracts with, I believe, TELUS that would see that achieved by 2021. There is an opportunity now through the attraction of additional funding partners to speed that up. We'd rather not wait or make people wait in more isolated communities until 2021. And over the next 2 years, we will invest $5 million this year and $5 million next year to accelerate the provision of rural internet connectivity.